I see you, you're inspiring, awesome, like good for you. Because I don't want to just think that behind the scenes. I don't want the behind the back version of my thoughts to just sit there when that could really help somebody in their day.
I was like, I didn't know you thought all that. You've never once said that to me, right? And you catch wind of these things that people say about you behind your back, and some of them suck. Some of them are bad. And that hurts, but there's something you can learn from it.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was a little bit of a heavier episode. Number 1112, the number one life lessons we're learning right now between Alan and Kevin. Today, for episode number 1113, can people talking about you behind your back actually be a good thing?
Interesting.
So, yeah, it's very interesting, right? That's a very hooky title. Like, what could this possibly be about? I was at my wedding party. So this was last month. I believe it was almost a month ago to this day. And there was somebody there. I'll leave the person anonymous, but I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he said to me, I was talking about you the other day. And I was like, oh, go on. Do go on, sir. What were you saying? And he said, I was talking to one of our mutual friends and acquaintances about one of the people, like, who's the list of people that you would never want to fight? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, number one, I've seen you work out and I've seen you hit the bag. And he said, like, you like flip a switch. You kind of go a little nuts. And I was like, thanks, man. I appreciate that very much. I actually like that. Later in the conversation, he said, I was also, and I don't know if it exactly, because there was alcohol involved at this party. So later in the night, I definitely had consumed more alcohol than I did in the beginning of the night, because that is how the night works. It progresses. I was talking to him and he said, I also, you know what I was thinking the other night, or maybe what I was telling somebody else, we had written a song together back in the day. And he's like, it was really crazy to me how fast you went from like, okay, this is the beat we're going to use, to this is the lyrics I'm going to do, to okay, now it's recorded. And I was like, thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. Like I really, really appreciate that. That's something I take a lot of pride in, and really it's something that I want to get back into. So I appreciated that very much. And I kind of forgot about those two things until last weekend. So last weekend, Taryn and I went away to stay at her family's house in Vermont, and we went up there with a couple of friends. And we were having, you would have enjoyed this very much, Alan. We were playing a game where we had these deep questions, and you would just ask a deep question, and everybody would go around and answer this deep question.
Is it in like a...
No, this was like just on the interwebs.
Oh, okay. Emilia, remember when she brought that to Friendsgiving once? We have that on our coffee table, and every now and then we'll do that at night. Yeah.
It was similar to that. It was similar. Yeah. But somehow in the conversation, one of our friends said, I'm trying to do this more where if I'm thinking of somebody or if I say something behind the scenes about somebody, I want to say it to their face. I want to tell them like what I'm actually thinking. And he said, I want you to know, Kev, that you always make me feel like you really care about what we're talking about. And you always make me feel like you really care about the conversation, and you care about my opinion, and you're listening. Like you're listening. And we ended up walking down to the dock together, and I was like, hey, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Like that genuinely means the world to me. And that's when I kind of had this thought for this episode of,
you should have said, what? Sorry, I wasn't listening. That would have been a funny joke, though, right? That would have been good.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have worked with the vibe, though. The vibe was
of course not.
Pretty serious vibe. But after that, when we were walking back up, that's literally when I thought to myself, this would make for an interesting episode, because you always hear about, like, don't talk about people behind their back. And I think all of us in some way, shape, or form, I mean, if you're out there publicly, it's bound to happen. Somebody's going to talk about you behind your back. But I think we always just assume and go with the negative. Like, what are people saying about me behind my back? What if there's people saying positive things about you behind your back too, that you just haven't heard yet? You may never hear. I think that's an interesting thing to think about. And then also, I was on a podcast today, and we were talking about how sometimes when you get insecure about something, you kind of villainize somebody. Like if you're in the gym and so say if I'm in the gym and I don't feel really good about myself and somebody's crushing it, I could say like, oh, that person sucks. That's not who I am, but I can understand how that could happen. And I told this story on a podcast today. I said I was in the gym probably like 5 months ago, and there was this dude who was just a stud, like just a great looking guy, just jacked, crushing it. And I was thinking to myself, good for him. And then I doubt he gets a lot of compliments.
Oh, like no.
I'm
Probably
sure
very
there's,
few.
Right? I'm sure there's a lot of people behind the scenes who are like, wow, that guy's jacked. But I went up to him. I made it a point to go up to him and say, hey, you're crushing it. I just want you to know, like, I see you. You're inspiring. Awesome. Like, good for you. Because I don't want to just think that behind the scenes. I don't want the behind the back version of my thoughts to just sit there when that could really help somebody in their day. And Taryn's really good at this. Every time we're out in public, she always will say to somebody like, hey, I like your glasses. Hey, I like your dress. I like your scarf. I like your boots. When we were in Vermont, she literally went up to a group of girls and said, hey, where did you get, I love that. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was a sweater maybe. I love that sweater. Where did you get it? And I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful when people do that, because if you're going to hold a positive thing behind your back, why not deliver it to somebody? You might make their day, you know?
I like this episode, man.
It's different, right?
It is. And of course, I'm going to bring a framework into it.
Yeah, of course. The old PRUTRS3 drive to 5. Here we go. Let's do it.
He just made all that up, by the way. None of that matters or means anything. Except for drive to 5. That's the thing.
It's a fact.
So 3 circles. Picture the store Target, which is where she probably got her sweater, by the way. I'm joking.
I actually think...
Is that true?
It might have been.
That would be cool. The center circle is who you really are. The second layer is who you want to believe you are. And the third layer is who you want others to believe you are. And so I think that I call it the real life and the false life. We did an episode on it a while ago. And I think the real life is what you're thinking inside of your head, and what you're feeling inside of you, and what you really believe, and what you really think, and what you say and do when no one's watching. I think that's the real you. I think that's the real life. And I often talk about how I actually care more about how I treat Emilia behind the scenes when no one's watching right after this episode than I care about what I'm saying on this show. And I care about my workout tonight. It's actually, I already worked out today, so I'm not going to work out tonight. But my workouts when I'm alone, I actually care about those more than I do being on this show. And that's a conscious effort. I want to be, I have it written in my bathroom. It's who you are and what you do when no one's watching that matters. Alan, you promised yourself to set a new level of integrity, a new standard for integrity for this world. It's literally written above what we call the frat bathroom, because it's my bathroom and it's...
Fratty.
Yeah, it's fratty. There's a little mini fridge in there with Zoas. It's actually pretty great in there, but it's about to get a little bit bedazzled, which is good because it's, it needs work. But anyway, it's the only room in the home that doesn't look amazing, honestly. Thanks to Emilia. Can't take any credit. But anyways, so why am I saying all that? What I think is fascinating is that, yes, people do talk about you negatively behind your back, but they also talk positively about you. And I don't know if this is weird of me, but I don't think I ever expected any different than that. Maybe this is something that I'm very comfortable with, but like, I know that people talk behind my back. I do know that, both positive and negative, and I'm not naive to that. And I don't even necessarily want them not to. I think it's important for all of us to contemplate. I've learned more from studying human beings than from anything else in the world. And I'm still learning all the time. And even in coaching, I'll use examples. I'll say, okay, can you please think of someone who, if you were objectively truthful with the way they currently operate, you don't think they're going to be successful in the future, just probability-wise. Just give me a first name only. And they'll give me a first name, and then I'll use that person's example to learn something. Every single one of us is a warning and an example. Every single one of us. There's certain things that I'm a warning, and there's certain things where I'm a great example, and I'm trying to get much more on the example side than the warning side. And I think as I grow, I'm definitely doing that. But my point of all of this is that everyone does talk behind your back, positively and negatively, and it's not always as malicious as you might think. And there's definitely more positives than you think. And for some reason, human beings don't like to tell people to their face the good things or the bad things. I don't really know if I fully understand why. I want to say it's ego, but I'll tell this story briefly. I want to keep this story anonymous, so I'm not going to provide much context. I was with someone who I didn't think liked me very much. And I don't want to say they didn't like me, but I definitely didn't think they valued me that much. I didn't think they saw my value. As a matter of fact, I had been frustrated with how much this person I don't think saw my value. We ended up in a situation where they were introducing me to someone that they really value and that they care about. And they literally introduced me like this. Ready? Oh my God, this is Alan. He went to WPI. He's a genius. He has a master's degree. He's amazing. He's the hardest worker I've ever met. If anything, you need to take a damn day off, you know? And I remember thinking to myself, like, what? You actually think all that? Like, you think I'm a genius? Like, I don't even think you thought I was intelligent. Like, this is awesome. I was like, I didn't know you thought all that. You've never once said that to me, right? And you catch wind of these things that people say about you behind your back, and some of them suck. Some of them are bad. And that hurts, but there's something you can learn from it. And then there's other things that people say behind your back that really are magnificent and really are wonderful. And one thing I will say is I know that I'm inspiring some people that from my past that would never necessarily give me that. And I told you this, Kev. I remember you went to a country concert with you and Matt and some other friends. And I remember back in the day when I wasn't feeling very good about myself, my fitness, my physique, and you were like jacked, man. And I remember I didn't like go out of my way, hey, Kev, you're so jacked, man, keep it up. Like I should have probably, but I was just like, damn, I was sad for self. I wasn't necessarily as happy for you as I should have been or could have been. And so I've been there at times in my life. I can think of very few, but I have, and I think it's human nature. But a lot of the things people think about you, they're not saying to you. And I think it's very important for all of us to understand that, certainly myself as well.
One of the questions we get asked most often is, what is my purpose and how do I figure out what I really want to do with my life?
And even if you're one of the few who do know what you really want, you might not know the steps to accomplish it, or even worse, you might not believe you can.
There's a bunch of people and programs out there that are trying to show you the easiest way, but not necessarily the best way for you.
Next Level Group Coaching is not only a place where you will understand yourself at a deeper level, but you'll also understand how everything you're learning applies specifically to you, to your life, and to your goals.
The Next Level You family is built on understanding, inclusiveness, and creating a supportive environment where you can always be your authentic self.
Many programs like this are literally thousands of dollars. Ours is not only more affordable than that, but with our 6-month payment plan, it's less than $100 per month.
And by the end of the first call, you'll have definite, clear, and specific goals. And by the end of the program, you'll have the exact daily steps to accomplish them or your money back.
At this point, our group coaching program has graduated dozens of people from all over the world. We only take 10 at a time, and honestly, we cannot guarantee the price will stay the same for future groups.
Now, there are a ton of reasons you should do this now, but the biggest one is that the version of you you're working so hard on becoming is waiting. I think it's one of those things where, and this is something you've been really, really good at. I talked about this today on a show. I said, one of the things that I have in my life that I don't know if I'm lucky, I'm sure I've attracted it and sustained it in some way, but I have people in my life who not only want to see me win, but they want to see me win regardless of themselves. And I said, Alan's always been that, like, just go win. I'm not worried. And the person said, okay, what's the difference between somebody who wants to see you win and wants to see you win regardless of themselves? And I said, the person who wants to see you win regardless of themselves believes that they'll win regardless of you. Kind of. They believe that they're going to win anyway. That's why I think... Well said. I appreciate that. That's why I think I can go up to the guy in the gym and say, hey, you're crushing it. Because I know I could look like you, my version of you, if I wanted to. And I was very disciplined, which I haven't been lately. But it's one of those things where that's not a negative mirror for me that makes me feel bad about me. It actually makes me feel good to see somebody crushing it. Where earlier in my life, if I saw somebody in my dream car, I might have had an ego and I might have had something negative to say behind the scenes because I didn't think I could get that. How dare you get something that I can't?
So that's a protector then.
I would
It's
say so.
essentially just a protector of like, I was talking to someone behind the scenes, and this, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too quickly, but this person and I were trying to learn.
Always.
And we were talking about a mutual friend that we both have that we do care about. And I was asking, like, what's the difference between why you and I get along so well, so naturally, so easily, and me and this other person, like, never seem to get along that well? And she said this, verbatim. She said, you got to understand that to her, you're kind of a threat. Not like I'm a predatory threat or anything like that, but like the mirror is a threat. Your success is kind of a threat to why she's not successful. She doesn't want to admit to herself she's not consistent. She doesn't want to admit to herself she doesn't work as hard as you, that kind of thing. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, so that protector, that ego, that threat detector, maybe that's what this is. Maybe that's what people do. I remember I have a friend of mine who was my fitness coach for a while. His name's Nate. And we've since not talked a ton. He moved to California. But I remember I came up to him because he inspired me so much. And in unbelievably good shape. Like, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I remember I came to him and I said, listen, man, I want you to know that in this gym, you're a bigger deal than you think. Because no one will tell you, but they all think that you're amazing. And they all think you look incredible. And I know no one tells you that, but I want to tell you that because I know that you never get told that. And he was like, dude, you have no idea how much that means to me. No one ever compliments me. And I know why. He's just by far in better shape than everyone in that town, never mind that gym, honestly. Yeah. And there's something sad about that, you know? And then I think about myself as well, and I do think there's some truth to some people are doing that to us. I think for our listeners, some people are doing that to you. And sometimes I think the better you are, it's weird, Kev, and let me ask you this question. Because I had a weird experience too. When you go on other podcasts and you get introduced, it's very uncomfortable. It's like, at first, and I'm sure you're used to it now, but, oh, this is Alan Lazaros. He's got a master's degree and he's got a bachelor's in electrical and computer engineering, and he's got a podcast with 1,000 episodes and a global top 100 show, 125 plus countries. Like, oh my God, he's amazing. He's a peak performance, productivity, and all this stuff. And for a while there, it was like, this is like weird for me. Like, those things are all true. And I worked really hard for those things, and I'm grateful for them. But very rarely does anyone like give you that much credit right out of the gate. Yep. And what's your experience been going on other shows with that?
Oh, I told you this today. We were talking about, so we recorded, obviously we recorded Sunday's episode and Monday's episode in this block. I'm wearing the same exact clothes, which honestly doesn't mean much because I wear the sweatshirt far too often and I need a haircut badly. And I said to Alan, I said, well, I'm very proud of where we are because it's weird when I get introduced as the CFO, the co-founder and host of the global top 100 Next Level University with 1,100 plus episodes, over 600,000 downloads and listeners in 125 plus countries. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting to get that. But then again, the thing is, like, who knows what happens after? You know, that's the interesting thing about a podcast is when you have a guest on, you have to subconsciously elevate them. And that's, again, that's a whole nother deep episode, and I'll do that on Podcast Growth U. But as the host, it's your job to subconsciously elevate this person because you wouldn't have them on your podcast if they weren't quote unquote great. So that's a whole nother thing.
And then that brings us to the rabbit hole of, are you elevating yourself? Are you giving yourself credit for those things? Or are you overly elevating yourself and not looking at the negative feedback?
Yeah, you and I under, for sure.
Yeah?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know if I understand that fully because, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
I think so. But it's, again, it's like based on the potential of what you know you could be doing. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
It's an interesting, maybe that's another topic for another episode, but I would say that I'm starting to understand that I do think that's true. And even in that story, I will never forget that story because I could not believe. But here's the weird thing. that person was talking to someone who he looked up to a lot. And I'm referring to the person introducing me as, this is Alan Lazaros. He's so hardworking, all that stuff. He's a genius. And I think it was a credibility building thing.
Yep.
And so I think that's what one of the things is, like, introducing me that way makes him look better.
Yeah.
And I think that's human nature.
It has to be beneficial.
It has to be beneficial.
It has to be beneficial to put yourself out there. Unless you're confident enough to realize that it is beneficial because it's helping you help somebody feel better. But you have to have that level of confidence. I think that's my perspective, at least.
All right, I know we got to go, but what does that mean? Can you go deeper on that?
What part?
Why do you think it feels like a threat to elevate someone else or to acknowledge someone else's greatness?
Because if you think they're greater than you allowing them to recognize their greatness creates more distance between you and puts you below them.
Which is a threat in terms of, like, survival and or whatever.
Yeah. Where if you are confident in the fact that you are actually below them and you can say that because you know it'll help them feel good. Like, that guy was in better shape than me, far better shape than I am. 100%. It's not close. He could step on stage if he wanted to. But I know that, but it doesn't necessarily make me feel bad because I know I'm capable of that too.
Okay.
So in this moment,
you can't give away what you don't have. So if you don't have self-belief, you kind of can't elevate other people.
I don't think you can wish for them to win regardless of you. I think you can wish for them to win. Remember, Alan and we got to go because I have to have you off here at 7.
Yeah.
Alan got invited to try out for Love Island back in the day. I told Alan not to do it, but I think one of the reasons is because I was afraid I would get left behind. I really do. Now, I still would tell you not to do it because it's the worst idea in the sad history of bad ideas. But I don't think it would come as much from a place of scarcity as, like, dude, come on. No, that's a bad idea. If anything, send me. Let me go a little buck wild. I'll put some lifts in my shoes.
Listeners. Yeah.
I'll put some lifts in my shoes, dye my hair blonde, and I'm a good time. I crush it. I feel like I crush on it. I crush on a show like that. All right. Next Level Nation, if you are listening to this tomorrow, round 8 of group coaching is off to a magnificent start. We want you to be there. Again, our goal is to teach you more about yourself because when you know more about yourself, everything else is going to start to make more sense. By the end of call 1, you will have some clarity on what you want to accomplish over the 6 weeks. By the end of it, you will have actionable steps on what to do to accomplish your goals. That is our desire for you.
All right, so our next monthly meetup, monthly meetup number 10 in a row, 10 months in a row. How to finally put yourself first, October 6th, 2022, starts at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please register at the link in the show notes. I'm pretty sure we already have like 18 people registered, actually.
Like that. Totally free, behind the scenes, totally free.
Totally free, behind the scenes, completely private. You can join us and collaborate, or you can not collaborate, communicate, or you can keep your mic off, camera off, all that. How to put yourself first. Obviously, you can overdo that, but if you're a listener to this show, most likely you struggle to ever put yourself first. So come join us, and that'll be great.
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1114. Are you afraid of your own greatness? That was a really good episode. I enjoyed that one very, very much. As always, we love you, appreciate you, grateful for each and every one of you. Go give somebody a compliment today. And as always, at NLU, we do not have fans, we have family. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.